Not every smile hides support. Some hide silent competition. We grow up believing friendship is a refuge, a space untouched by envy, a bond held together by trust. Yet the truth is sharper. Even among laughter and shared memories, comparison quietly takes root. Friends notice your progress, your confidence, the small victories that set you apart. They cheer, but their eyes calculate. Every achievement becomes a mirror reflecting what they have not yet become. Envy slips through disguised as teasing, concern, or advice meant to humble your excitement. You sense it in the tone, the pause, the slight shift in energy. Loyalty and comparison dance side by side, invisible but inseparable. This is not betrayal. It is human nature's quiet imbalance, the place where affection collides with insecurity and where friendship's brightest light begins to cast its first shadow. Comparison is not a flaw of character. It is an inheritance from survival. In ancient tribes, knowing who was stronger, faster, or more admired meant understanding one's place within the group. It was instinct, a mental ranking system designed to protect status and ensure belonging. Centuries later, the instinct remains, though the arena has changed. We no longer compare hunting skills but careers, relationships, beauty, and confidence. Leon Festinger's social comparison theory revealed that humans define their worth by measuring themselves against others. The closer the resemblance, the sharper the comparison becomes. Friends and colleagues, those who share our world, become silent mirrors reflecting our own insecurities. When a stranger succeeds, we admire them. When a friend does, we question ourselves. Distance breeds inspiration. Proximity breeds tension. And in that quiet space between admiration and envy, friendships begin to shift from warmth to watchfulness. Competition among friends rarely arrives dressed in open hostility. It appears in small, quiet gestures that feel off but are hard to name. The first sign is the backhanded compliment, praise wrapped in subtle comparison. "You did great for someone with your background," they say, smiling. The tone flatters, but the message plants doubt. Psychologists call this covert hostility, a way to elevate themselves while appearing kind. Then comes one-upmanship. You share an achievement. They respond with theirs, slightly better, slightly louder. It is not celebration. It is scorekeeping disguised as conversation. Beneath it lies insecurity, the fear that your progress diminishes their value. Watch for emotional withdrawal after your success. They become distant, unresponsive, as if your win stole something from them. This silence is the emotional tax of comparison, admiration and resentment intertwined. The most deceptive sign is mimicry. They start adopting your routines, speech, or style, not from inspiration, but competition. Psychologists call it mirroring, an unconscious attempt to reclaim equilibrium by copying the traits that threaten them. Yet the most dangerous disguise of all is overpraise. Excessive admiration can hide suppressed envy. They elevate you outwardly to mask their inner rivalry. Sometimes friendly advice urging caution or humility is not concern but containment, a subtle effort to slow your momentum so they can feel safe again. Competition among friends is rarely about hatred. It is about survival of self-image. Each of these behaviors reveals the same wound, the fear of becoming invisible next to someone they once considered equal. And in that fragile silence between friendship and comparison, loyalty begins to tremble under the weight of hidden rivalry. Envy is not reserved for the cruel or the selfish. It lives quietly even within the kindest hearts. Good people feel it precisely because they care, because they are close enough to witness another's success up close and personal. When a friend achieves what we desire, it awakens a quiet ache. We are proud yet pained. This is cognitive dissonance, the inner conflict between love and longing, support and self-doubt. The mind struggles to hold two truths. I am happy for you, and I wish it were me. Unmet ambitions deepen the tension. Every unfulfilled dream becomes a lens through which we view others' victories. Their progress feels like proof of our own delay. Over time, admiration curdles into quiet resentment, not out of hatred, but self-comparison. The true danger is not envy itself. It is denial. When envy hides behind forced cheer or hollow praise, it festers. Those who admit envy can release it. Those who deny it allow it to poison the bond. In truth, envy only thrives in silence. Acknowledging it does not make us bad, it makes us honest. And honesty, even when uncomfortable, is the only way to protect love from the corrosion of comparison. Success has a strange way of turning mirrors toward those who stand beside you. When you rise, you do not just change your own life, you change what others see in themselves. Your achievements reflect back everything they once hoped to become, every dream deferred, every goal abandoned. Psychologists call this projection. the mind's instinct to cast its discomfort onto someone else rather than face it within. A promotion can remind a friend of the risks they never took. A new relationship can expose the loneliness they hide behind humor. Even your creative breakthroughs can unsettle them, not because they dislike your art, but because it reminds them of their silence. Your success becomes a symbol of contrast, forcing them to confront the gap between potential and action. You did not change. You simply became a mirror, reflecting their unfinished stories, their unmet standards, their unspoken fears. And mirrors, no matter how honest, can feel cruel to those not ready to face what they show. The discomfort they project toward you is rarely about you at all. It is about the parts of themselves they have yet to forgive. In that reflection lies the truth. Success does not divide friends. Insecurity does not. All manipulation wears the face of malice. Sometimes it smiles with concern. Competitive friends often master a quieter strategy, one that hides control beneath the language of care. When you share your ambitions, they do not argue. They warn. Are you sure that's safe? Maybe you should wait. Their tone is gentle, but the goal is containment. Psychologists call this covert aggression, control masked as compassion. Then comes subtle guilt. You are made to feel selfish for wanting more, as if your growth somehow betrays the bond. Your achievements are minimized. It's not a big deal, they say. Or they meet your excitement with silence so heavy it dims your joy. This is friendly sabotage, not an attempt to destroy you, but to preserve their comfort zone by shrinking yours. They are not attacking your dreams. They are protecting their stability. Your courage threatens their excuses. Every step you take toward freedom exposes the walls they built around themselves. So they cloak resistance in affection, hoping you mistake their fear for wisdom. Emotional manipulation, at its core, is not about hatred. It is about fear of change. And when care becomes a cage, the most loving act you can do is recognize it for what it truly is. Control disguised as concern. Growth is often romanticized as liberation, but in truth, it is an act of separation. The moment your ambition begins to stretch beyond the limits of your circle, resistance quietly follows. Friends who once celebrated your potential may now question your direction, not because they wish you harm, but because your evolution unsettles their sense of belonging. Humans are wired to crave stability. Any change within the group feels like a threat of abandonment. Psychologists call this homeostasis, the instinct to pull everything back to familiar balance. So when you move forward, they tug gently backward. They remind you of who you were, not who you are becoming. You feel guilt for advancing, fear for shrinking, torn between loyalty and authenticity. But true growth always demands a shedding of comfort. You are not losing friends. You are revealing alignment. Some were mirrors reflecting your past. Others were anchors keeping you still. Outgrowing your circle is not betrayal. It is the natural cost of evolution. Those who belong to your future will not fear your expansion. They will rise with it. And those who cannot will fade quietly into the background, leaving behind the lesson that not everyone is meant to follow you where you are going. You cannot control another person's envy, but you can control your exposure to it. The first step is recognition without confrontation. Not every rival needs to be named. Awareness itself is power. When you understand the psychology behind hidden competition, you stop reacting emotionally and start responding strategically. The second step is discretion. Stop oversharing every win, every plan, every dream. Not everyone deserves front-row access to your progress. Silence in this sense becomes protection. It preserves your peace and deprives silent competitors of ammunition. Next, redirect your energy toward those who celebrate growth without insecurity. Build circles where ambition is not a threat but a shared language. Such connections multiply strength instead of diluting it. Finally, practice radical empathy without self-sacrifice. Understand that envy often hides pain. You can acknowledge it with compassion, but never at the cost of your own momentum. Emotional boundaries mean caring without carrying. Hidden competition loses its power the moment you stop feeding it with validation or explanation. You do not owe anyone comfort for your success. Protect your energy, guard your joy, and remember, the goal is not to win against them, but to keep growing beyond their reach. Rivalry only holds power when you play the same game. The moment you stop competing for validation, competition becomes information, a signal that you are progressing. Every envious glance, every quiet dismissal, every imitation is proof that you have moved beyond comfort zones others still fear to leave. Instead of resenting it, use it as fuel. The Stoics taught that what disturbs us is not events themselves, but how we interpret them. Envy, then, is not an attack but feedback, evidence that your growth is visible. Let it remind you that you are evolving. Measure progress not by how far ahead you are of others, but by how far ahead you are of who you were yesterday. Psychologically, this reframing shifts your mindset from reaction to resilience. When you detach from comparison, you free yourself from its emotional toll. Their rivalry becomes irrelevant because your compass is internal. Success becomes quiet, intentional, self-defined. You cannot silence envy, but you can starve it by refusing to engage. Let every whisper of competition echo as confirmation that you are still rising. Let their discomfort sharpen your discipline, not your bitterness. In the end, the only game worth winning is mastery over yourself. True power is quiet. It is the strength to walk among competition, envy, and comparison without being touched by them. Emotional independence does not mean isolation. It means valuing connection without needing approval. When you stop craving validation, the noise around you begins to fade. You learn to appreciate people's presence without depending on their praise. Maturity is not found in winning every hidden rivalry. It is in observing it calmly. You see others' envy not as insult, but as information. You understand that comparison is a reflection of insecurity, not a judgment of your worth. This awareness frees you from reaction. Detachment is not indifference. It is clarity. You can care deeply yet remain centered. You no longer measure friendships by admiration or competition, but by peace. Let your growth be quiet proof, not a weapon. Let your progress speak without needing applause. The journey from craving acceptance to mastering self-validation transforms silent wars into serenity. You stop chasing approval and start building alignment. In this space, friendship becomes lighter, love becomes purer, and success becomes sacred. Because when validation loses its hold, freedom begins, and with it, the kind of peace that no rivalry can disturb.